Today we compare two of the hottest midsize trucks on the market.
Starting off with the new Ranger Raptor and the new Colorado ZR2.
Which one of these off-road beasts is your better daily driver? The Michigan-built Ranger Raptor or from Missouri, the Colorado ZR2?
Hello everybody and welcome to Performance on Wheels. My name is Austin. My dad Todd and I, we make all types of different car videos on all types of different cars. And huge shout out to Apple Autos for supplying the trucks that were used in today's video. If you guys are looking for a brand new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Ford, or Chevy, be sure to check them out here in Minneapolis.
The midsize truck segment has been absolutely on fire with everything being redesigned. Every brand is chasing each other, and these are the two hottest American brand off-road capable, turns heads at every street corner you go around. These things are absolutely stunning. Let's start checking these things out.
Let's do it. Now this segment has gotten really appealing to me in the last few years. Now these full-size trucks continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. They're getting so big to the point, to me, they're impractical. It's ridiculous trying to drive an F-150 downtown Minneapolis. They're just too dang big. And it's the same way with the Silverado and the Ram 1500. The mid-size trucks are now the same size as full-size trucks from the early 2000s, so they're at like the perfect size right now. Yet their interiors aren't overblown with space. They still have a little bit smaller interiors. They still have a smaller bed attached to them. But with their size and their class, their off-road capability is the absolute best out of any truck on the market right now. Because of their overall size, they can fit on pretty much any trail. Okay. So let's check out the two best trail-rated vehicles that you can buy right now from Ford and Chevy. All new for the Ranger is the Raptor trim. It started with the F-150, it moved its way to the Bronco, and now is on the Ranger model here. So there's three different Raptors that you can purchase that all have the same off-road capability. However, the Ranger's the most appealing from a price perspective, being half the price pretty much as an F-150 and a Bronco. It comes in at just under $60,000, which is incredible.
Yeah, this one's like just a shade under $59,000. For context, the Colorado in today's video, the MSRP on that one was just over $53,000. Now that one does not have the Bison package, which a lot of the comparison videos you see between these two have the Bison package compared to the Raptor Ranger. If it did have the Bison package, which is around $11,000, it would be then more expensive, where as of now, we're around $4,000 less than the Ranger Raptor. But what you're gonna see, because it doesn't have the Bison, both of these vehicles are equipped with 33-inch tires right off the showroom floor. You cannot get a larger tire from the factory on the Ranger Raptor, where with that Bison package over on the Colorado, you can get a 35-inch tire. Now, both of these have incredible suspensions.
Fox over here and Multimatic over there.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about just overall cosmetics, now because once again we don't have the Bison package, we're going to find a lot more plastic on the exterior of the Colorado ZR2, where on the Ranger Raptor we do have some steel components, both the front and rear bumpers to say the least. We do have some great underbody protection on both of the vehicles. These are trail-ready vehicles. There's no debating that. They have front rear locking differentials. These things have a very capable ground clearance. A Ranger Raptor is about 1.5 inches over the ride height of a normal Ranger, where the Colorado has about a 3-inch lift on it over a normal Colorado. So you put these two side by side and you will see that the Colorado is a hair bigger when it comes to a height comparison compared to the Ranger Raptor. When you talk about overall dimensions, everything is very similar. I mean, in every measurement, whether it's the length, the width, they're within 1-2 inches of each other. The Colorado being a little bit longer, the Ranger being a little bit wider. And when you talk about overall capabilities, the Ranger does have about 500 more pounds of towing capacity at 5,500 pounds compared to the 5,000 over on the Colorado. Now, I think that is interesting because the Ranger Raptor in the rear end actually has a coil suspension. And it looks really cool when you look at it because it has the Watt linkage system. So it has these trailing arms and it has all these different components that really keep this thing planted in the rear end when you're going over different dunes, like high-speed off-road driving, where on the Colorado you just have a normal leaf spring setup. So it looks pretty basic under the Colorado compared to underneath the Ranger Raptor, it looks like it means business.
Now let's talk about the appearance of the Ranger Raptor. Right up front, it immediately is identifiable as a Raptor trim, getting that big Ford word right across the front of this thing. I love those steel bumpers that my dad brought up, and the parking sensors integrate nicely into the inside of them. The new running lights and overall the new front end of the Ranger does look pretty menacing. However, I think we need to talk about the Colorado for a second. I genuinely think this is the best looking midsize truck on the market right now. They nailed the design of this thing. It looks so aggressive, so good. The styling, the body lines, all of the angles that they put inside of this vehicle. I do not think that the Ranger, in my opinion, comes close to the aggressiveness of the front end of the ZR2. It looks so good, and all the red accents that they kind of pulled from the RS line and threw it on the front of the Colorado here, on the ZR2 trim specifically, it looks so good. And the red on the inside of the flow tie, quick history lesson here, the flow tie originally came out on the 2015 Camaro Z28. Now, the reason for this is they were trying to figure out how to get more airflow into the LS7, which they pulled from the C6 Z06, putting it inside of this Camaro. They were trying to get as much power as possible, the least amount of drag as possible, and it was just so interesting that one of the engineers there was like, hey, we have this big Chevy logo on the front of this Camaro that's blocking all of this airflow that could be pulling inside of the intake of this LS7. So he had a Dremel and cut out the inside of the Chevy logo, and it related to like 0.02 more coefficiency or air into the engine. I don't remember the exact specs, but that is where the flow tie came from. Quick history lesson.
There it is. That's beautiful. Getting back to the overall looks, I do agree with Austin that the Colorado, it just looks more aggressive than the Ranger. What really stands out on the Ranger is it's a little bit wider there with the fenders and that big, bold Ford logo. But everything about the Colorado, like every body line is rigid, right? Every body line is bold. It comes to a point, whether you're talking about the fenders up front, even over the rear wheels, the body lines have a defined point to them, and it really makes this thing look masculine and aggressive. Now, even when you get inside and you're looking out over the hood, although none of it's really functional, there's no like heat extractors or anything like that. This thing feels huge.
It does.
If you got into the Ranger first, you would think that's a big truck until you go sit in a Colorado, and then you're like, this is a big truck. Right.
We'll get into driving impressions here in a minute, but because the hood and everything is so big in the Colorado, you actually have worse visibility, and it feels just so much bigger because a big reason for that is that hood. Now, another thing that isn't necessarily as functional, but I think looks significantly better, over on the Ranger, we have beadlock capable wheels, right? On those, what are they, like 17s or 18s?
17s, yeah.
Yeah, they are beadlock capable, but I just love the look of the wheels on this ZR2. They look so good in my opinion. I think they blow the look of the Ranger Raptor's wheels out of the water. Granted, they don't have the functionality. This thing just has the look going all for it. The body lines, the wheel choice, the tires, the stance. I have to pick the Colorado from a look perspective. Let's check out the rear end.
As we're making our way to the back, the side profile, it's really boring on the Ranger, I'm not gonna lie. That 3-inch suspension lift on the Colorado looks really good. It looks aggressive. It's just awesome. But when you get to the back, you obviously have the dual exhaust over on the Ranger, which you do not have on the Colorado. And you have the big, bold, embedded right across the center of the tailgate on the Chevy, where on the Ranger, it says Ranger down lower there. So overall, it doesn't matter which angle you look at the Colorado, I think it's a more aggressive looking truck. The lighting package on the Ranger is much nicer. It looks cooler. The tail lights are LED, the front lights are LED. I like the fact that the Ranger has 4 headlights that come on, plus the fog lights, where the Colorado, it looks really cool. There's so many halogen bulbs on the Colorado, though, that there's elements of it that look cheap in 2025 here.
That's like crazy to me.
Your license plate lights, your overhead cargo lights.
Your brake lights, your turn signals, over $50,000 truck, and you still have all these halogen bulbs in there. That's wild.
It's very interesting there.
Before we step inside, we need to talk about the beds of these trucks really quick. One thing I think is absolutely crucial that the Colorado kills over the Ranger, bed liner is standard, and it gets this ZR2 nameplate plate just stamped to the back of the bed. It looks super sweet compared to you still have to pay for bed liner in the Ranger, which I think's ridiculous. I love bed liner. I think that should be standard on a vehicle of this caliber. Overall capability inside the bed is very, very similar. Just the Colorado has a slow opening tailgate, and it's got the fancy ZR2 badge and some bed liner. So far proven reliable, the Ranger Raptor features the 3-liter twin-turbo EcoBoost that you can find over in the Bronco Raptor as well. 405 horsepower, 430 pound-feet of torque. It's very peppy inside of this. It's also paired to the 10-speed transmission, which is very similar to the one in the Colorado. We'll get to that in a second. But overall, this is a really fun engine, and it pairs well with this truck. I think a Ford Performance tune would really, really wake it up, and this thing would be an absolute monster. But let's go over here to the Colorado, because this is unfortunately where I am somewhat disappointed in the Colorado. So the Colorado has 2 different engine options, okay? You can get the base Turbo Max or the like Turbo Max Plus, whatever. It's the same thing basically, but it has more power, and that is what is in the one that is behind me right now. However, it is paired to the GM Ford co-developed 8-speed transmission, basically the same one in the Ranger, just has a couple less gears in it. And I don't know if it's the transmission tuning, I don't know if it's the programming, but the Colorado engine is just disappointing to me. It does not have the get up and go that I have over in the Ranger. It has a little bit less power. I think it has the exact same amount of torque.
Yeah, 430 torque, 310 horsepower. So there is a substantial horsepower decrease in the Colorado. But I will make this comment. If you aren't driving these vehicles hard and you are just driving them on a daily basis, and you never drove a Ranger Raptor, you'd get behind the wheel of the ZR2 and think, this thing is peppy, this thing is fun. It's got a little bit of turbo lag, but once the turbo kicks on, it's kind of fun and it's kind of zippy. But it all goes out the window if you drive a Ranger Raptor. Like, it's such a substantial difference in power plant.
And here's the other thing that's kind of disappointing, right? We have almost 100 less horsepower here in the Colorado, yet we still require premium fuel, and we get the exact same gas mileage that we get in the Ranger. I mean, exactly the same.
I think it's even 1 mile per gallon better as the rating on the highway.
So it is more powerful, it's more torquey than the outgoing 3.6 V6. However, I really think that maybe GM could have done a little bit better job, maybe still given us a V6 option opposed to the Turbo 4 that you can only get inside of the Colorado. I think we both can agree that the Colorado absolutely knocks the Ranger out of the park from a design perspective. Chevy just did such a good job with the whole design of this truck. That's not dismissing how good the Ford looks, it's just I think that looks so much better. But when we compare the powertrains, the Ranger really just knocks the Colorado out of the park. They did such a great job with the 3-liter and the 10-speed, and the whole suspension package inside of this truck. That's not dismissing the Multimatic suspension. It's still extremely good. It has a lot of capability, but the Ranger, all in all, just has a better performance package in itself. And let's actually compare the 0 to 60 times here quick.
The numbers don't lie, Austin, there it is. The 0 to 60 time, almost a full second faster in the Raptor Ranger.
Now, the other thing that we need to take into consideration as well is, granted, I don't think the 3-liter is probably going to be the most reliable engine down the road. It's pretty good.
This thing's gonna be reliable.
I was just about to say, I think this thing's going to absolutely explode. I genuinely think this is probably going to be a terrible motor from GM. I think the majority of the comment section can relate with me. If they take a step into GM's past, any of their V6s or pretty much anything other than a V8 have been terrible, and right now their V8s are terrible. So GM's in kind of a bad spot for engines right now, and I have no idea where this Colorado is going to go for reliability.
All right, let's make our way inside here, and you've spent more time in the Colorado. This was actually my first experience getting in, driving, touching, looking around, and I have to say, when I got into the Colorado, I was a little bit, I was like, holy crap, this thing's really nice. I like the yellowish stitching. I like the different dimensions they put into the door panels. The steering wheel feels amazing. Like, there's a lot of really good touch points, but also just overall design is really good. I'm not gonna lie, I like the fact of the horizontal screen layout versus the vertical screen layout. They're about the same size. They both function really well.
I would have to dismiss you there. I think the Colorado is significantly significantly better from a function standpoint. Now, I actually have the same Google-powered infotainment system in our daily driver Equinox EV, and the Google-powered system is significantly leaps and bounds better than the sync system that the Ford has, from a connectivity standpoint, from a refresh rate standpoint, from a usability standpoint. The Google system is faster than the sync system, and I am with you in the fact that I like the overall interior layout better. I like how all the climate control has their own buttons. I like how it's easy to access my heated and cooled seats. I like how everything is easy to access versus having to go through the display, let alone a slower display over here on the Ranger.
You know what I don't like though is I don't like, and there's probably many people are the same, I don't like the headlight control through the infotainment. That's
I would agree.
Negative netty there.
I would
like
agree.
The dial, I like it being easily accessible. The Colorado going through the infotainment, that's trash to me.
But quite honestly, we need to take into perspective here, we're only dealing with that because we're shooting a video. When do you take your headlights out of auto?
There's that one time, that one place that it happened. But like you get into the Ranger and it's nice. Like, again, if the Colorado wasn't around to compare it to, you would get into the Ranger and you think this is fun. Like, this is a party place, the red accents.
Yeah.
They're a really good time. In our previous Ranger Raptor video, I did complain about the texture change up on the dashboard where it goes from like the microfiber suede to the hard plastic. Although the Colorado has a plastic dashboard as well, the transition is much cleaner. It looks a lot more luxurious in here.
Yeah.
Where the Raptor looks more like, hey, it's time to party.
It looks like a toy.
Yeah, it looks like a toy. There is a lot more plastic that looks cheaper in there, in my opinion. They just did such a really good job on the interior of the Colorado.
I would agree. The Colorado has a fantastic interior. Both of them have very similar technology when it comes to 360-degree cameras, wireless phone chargers, all of the bits and pieces that you need from a technology standpoint. They are both there. The Colorado is the more comfortable truck on a day-to-day basis. The Ranger is the more playful, fun truck on a day-to-day basis. Let's show why that is when we get behind the wheel and drive them. Behind the wheel of the Colorado ZR2. Now, which one of these two trucks is more livable on a day-to-day basis? That's the question that we're trying to figure out in today's video. And I must admit, behind the wheel of the Colorado ZR2, cruising around town, I am extremely comfortable inside of this driver's seat. I have just the greatest positions for where the steering wheel adjusts to me, for my armrest, for the rest here on the side. This is one of the most comfortable trucks that I have driven in a very long time. Now, some of the full-size trucks now are getting so wide to the point you need to like spread your arms to get your arms and armrests. I am extremely comfortable at 5'11" inside of the Colorado. Arguably the most comfortable truck that I have been in from a sitting position standpoint in a long period of time. So that's really, really cool. I also love the visibility outside of this thing. When it comes to a technology standpoint, the screens are set up perfectly. However, the visibility outside of the actual truck itself is lacking a little bit. Now, I personally don't really have an issue with it, but compared to other trucks that are in this segment, this one is a little bit harder to see. Struggling for traction a little bit on this wet day here in Minnesota. However, even with the lack of traction, this truck struggles immensely from a power perspective. It just feels so lackluster. I feel like it is just absolutely gutless when I put my foot down, even in its sport setting, Baja, which it's in right now. It just feels like it has absolutely no guts to it until it's in the top of the rev range. Yes, it gets you where you need to go in traffic. Yes, you can accelerate nicely onto the highway, but by no means is there any fun aspect to the power band inside of the Colorado. I'm also kind of astonished, on a day-to-day driving standpoint, it doesn't have a bad tone to it, but it's really loud. Like, it has a lot of engine noise. There's zero exhaust noise, but this is just kind of a very noisy engine. It's not necessarily a bad sound by any means. It has a nice growl to it, but it just feels like it's always loud. I can't necessarily tell if it's piped in sound through the speakers. It kind of sounds like it. Comment down below if it is. And if it is, I'm very curious if you can shut it off, because it did not changing up the drive modes or anything like that. But the piped in sound or just the engine sound is louder than I would like for just a normal day-to-day acceleration standpoint, when it's not like, you know, a cool sound. Getting out of the ZR2 into the Ranger Raptor. Holy cow, it feels like I just got into a whole new planet when it comes to a power perspective. New element of driving has been brought in compared to the ZR2, and that is the element of speed and fun, and just the adjustment of like like, it's almost like a sports car. We have adjustable suspension, adjustable steering feel, adjustable exhaust sound. We have adjustable power levels. It feels like it's so much more fun to drive in the sense where it wants you to push it. It wants to have fun. It wants to shift. It throws you back to your seat. It gives you these big paddle shifters to let you put it in manual and do all that shifting yourself. It just has that fun element that you don't get on a day-to-day basis in the Colorado yet. However, if I just come down here to my drive modes and I swap it out of Baja back into normal, it drives like a comfortable vehicle. However, these seats are a little bit more firm than the seats that were in the Colorado. So I have these large bolsters, but the back support I don't sink into them as much. The butt support's a little bit more stiff. My arm positions aren't as necessarily easy as they were in the Colorado. It's still super comfortable, easy to drive in, but I think the Colorado is a more comfortable sitting position than I have here in the Ranger. And the visibility in the Ranger is better than I think it was in the Colorado. The Colorado has that bigger hood on it, feels like you sit down a little bit lower in it. So this feels like you have more visibility, but a little bit less comfort. But you also have that dual personality of it being a fun, like, vehicle to go accelerate in, to enjoy acceleration, and you can take turns more aggressively, and it likes to shift. It has that element that the Colorado is just lacking behind the wheel. So yes, the Colorado is definitely probably the more comfortable day-to-day vehicle, but the Raptor is definitely the more fun day-to-day vehicle.
Even after driving them, I think there's a few things that our opinions stay the same on. And what that is, Austin, just to point it out, again, 53 to like 59,000 in the way both of these vehicles are. We have a sunroof over here on the Colorado as it's sitting. That's not even an option on a Ranger, any trim level. The other thing that we have over here is ventilated and heated seats, where you can't get ventilated seats on the Ranger at all. The other thing to point out is they're both very nice sound systems. We have B&O versus the Bose sound system. So again, very nice, comfortable, luxurious place to spend time.
What about the back seats?
Well, Austin, I'm glad you asked, actually, because as you can see here, when I get into the front seat of both of these vehicles being 6 feet tall, where I am comfortable. Now, I will say I would be back further if there is no one behind me. So where I am comfortable, I do have to move forward to even be able to fit in the back seat at 6 feet tall of both of these trucks. The Ranger does win here, though, and a lot of it is just the mere fact of the seat design, where they have the indentation for your knees to sit. Other than that, they're both comfortable enough for what they are, but the Ranger's definitely a little roomier.
I love both of these trucks, but my heart sits at the Colorado here. I just think it looks so good. It's so fun to drive. It has so much crawling capability off-road. Now, if you're gonna be shooting for Baja here, obviously the Raptor is the choice to go to, but there's also a big issue inside of my head here. I trust the Ranger more for reliability in the long run. I would be terrified to own this 4-cylinder outside of warranty. Now, that's not dismissing the fact that this is probably gonna have a few issues down the line.
A lot of plastic.
But Chevy is in a really bad spot for their engines right now, and I'd be very nervous to own this outside of warranty. I don't know what the future holds for a small engine with a lot of boost going into it, but I would assume nothing good based on their past.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I think we both agree that if we were walking into the dealer and buying both of these brand new off the showroom, I think it would be the Colorado. However, if both of these vehicles had, say, 60,000 miles on them and we were buying them on the used market, I'm wondering if we both would change our opinion to buying a Ranger Raptor.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm kind of interested to see how reliability continues to roll out for this new 2.7 liter inline 4 that Chevy rolled out here. I'm really not sure, but man, right now, as this truck sits, this is the coolest midsize truck on the market. I think the next step is we need to compare this to the Tacoma TRD Pro. If you guys are interested in seeing that, be sure to comment down below. Be sure to hit like and subscribe to support this father-son team, and we'll see you next time.